ただ一人迷い込む旅の中で
We open on a stylized kanji title with snow falling behind the characters, alluding to Holo's homeland in the north.
The background kind of looks like the surface of the moon.
It's sort of hard to tell, but it's pretty likely given the moon's relationship with wolves, and the white fade into the match cut with the full moon more or less confirms it. The light of the moon stirs Holo from her slumber, and she awakens alone in the stark wilderness of Yoitz, her birthplace.
So, this is the moment that she leaves home then.
Actually, as we're about to see, it's more of a metaphorical time and space. The way Holo contextualizes her loneliness as a pagan wolf god. The falling snow represents the passage of time and the shortness of human lives. Here we can't tell exactly what Holo is reacting to, but the next few shots make it clear that this is where she meets Craft Lawrence. We first see Lawrence in a narrow frame created by a tight alleyway. He's walking along a busy street, but the people across from him are in shadow and out of focus, and the alley blocks off anyone else who might be on the same plane. He comes to a stop at the exact same point at center screen that was occupied by Holo in her long shot. Their paths have converged. He too is alone, which is confirmed in the next shot where all other faces in frame are either shaded or turned away, and Craft's head is the only thing occupying the top half of the screen. This shot also parallels Holo's own reaction shot. Craft dominates the left half of the frame, Holo the right. This positioning is consistent throughout the OP. They bring balance to each other's worlds when they finally meet, and not just in terms of shot composition. The lighting and color also complement each other. Holo is surrounded by stark blue, while Lawrence's world is all warm shades of yellow and orange, like autumn leaves. When Craft is seen in the dark, Holo is seen in the light, and vice versa. It's fitting, then, that they come together under the light of a full moon, surrounded by shadows cast by clouds. The sky is blue, the wheat they stand in is golden, and the two are joined by a strip of green. At the very end of the series, when Holo says her soul is multicolored, these are the hues that spring to mind. Acer, it's so fucking elegant and beautiful that I could cry.
This next cut has that effect on me. I love the interplay between the wheat, the coin, and the cart.
That's called a match cut. The wheat pouch and coin are the items that give Holo and Lawrence their independence. The rolling of the coin evokes a cartwheel, which creates an expectation that's immediately paid off by the shot of the cart, which is the thing that makes them free to travel together. From this point on, Holo and Lawrence are always framed together. Their cart travels on rolling fields of green, with only splashes of Holo's blue and Lawrence's autumn hues. The large shadow behind them creates the impression of moving out of the night into a new day. As the camera tilts up to show Holo talking to Lawrence, the blue of the sky fills the entire frame, creating a subconscious expectation that she will take the upper hand in their relationship. Lawrence's reaction and her playful smirk pay this off, and as she shifts in her seat, she covers up Lawrence's colors in the background. Given all that information, what do you think this next flash cut shows?
Well, they're not in the same position shot to shot, so I don't think it's a metaphorical connection. I guess it must be telling a story? I think Holo and Lawrence might be having a small fight.
Correct. First, Holo uses her small position of power to make Lawrence buy her apples, something he clearly resents. Then we see them standing on a bridge, seemingly happy, but we're looking at a reflection, and that means the entire situation is flipped. A more obvious cue is that Holo and Lawrence have split apart, and they move even further away in the next shot. Their body language is subdued, as though they've cooled their heads but not yet made up, and the trees create a thick barrier dividing Holo's blue and Lawrence's yellow. When they come back together, the color balance is shifted in Lawrence's favor, with a bright yellow sun in the center and the sky and water around it tinted green. Lawrence is also above Holo in the frame, which commonly indicates dominance in the language of film, but kind man that he is, Lawrence has come over to Holo on the right side of the screen, and this concession restores the balance between them a bit.
So in the last minute, the OP has basically summed up Holo and Lawrence's entire relationship dynamic. Damn. That is masterful.
It's not over yet. Next, they introduce the rest of the cast for the first season, starting with Rickton Marlight, the manager of Mylone Trading. The way he's framed with his face cast in shadow makes us a little uncertain of his alignment and motives. His reflection in the floor is equally murky, and though he's walking toward a source of light, there are shadows beyond it, and he's walking right, which, as we established last episode, is pretty sinister. But then he turns to the camera, revealing eyes softer than they first appeared and a warm smile. Furthermore, he's surrounded by light, and despite the direction he was walking, he has shifted to the left. This mirrors how he appears to be a potential danger in the story before he proves himself to be trustworthy. Contrast that with Chloe. She's standing in bright light and walking left, by all indications a good figure, but she's stepping into a world of darkness, and the panning camera constantly pulls her to the right, even as she tries to reach Lawrence's side. Her expression as she turns to the camera is cold. Everything about this foreshadows her coming betrayal. Orange and yellow dominates the next shot of Lawrence and Holo. Because Holo is asleep, Lawrence has a moment of solitude, but unlike his prior loneliness, this is pleasant and bright, possibly because he's on Holo's side of the screen. The meaning of this shot of the wolf pack is pretty obvious, but it's still a gorgeously composed image. The huge wolf incarnation, looming and obscured by shadow, gives off an intense air of menace, and its glowing red eye is the only source of color in the entire frame. Its position at the top of the frame tells us it has power over the rest of the pack running below it, and they all move unerringly from left to right, an unambiguous threat. Nora is headed into darkness, but the blowing wind catches her attention and changes her heading.
And those are autumn leaves in the wind. Even though we can't see the color, it clearly represents Lawrence.
Good catch. Now, we also see the shadow of a weather vane turning in the wind, which I'm fairly certain is supposed to symbolize the church and how it's being affected by Lawrence. Crosses aren't a prominent symbol in Spice and Wolf's universe, but the cross shape is fairly evocative to most viewers in Japan, certainly more so than a plain church spire would be. The decorations hint at the church's nature. An open, outstretched palm represents their front of benevolence, while the hanging sword belies their more violent methods.
Hold up a second, you said that Holo and Lawrence are always in the frame together for the rest of this OP.
I did, and they are. Lawrence is the candle. Note the warm yellow light and the fact that it occupies the left side of the screen. Holo's depressed expression and body language tell us everything we need to know about what it represents, too. As the series goes on, she repeatedly expresses fear over the fact that Lawrence will die someday and leave her alone. What better way to represent a short, brilliant life than with a melting candle?
Makes sense to me, and this firm handshake is clearly them cementing their partnership.
Although it takes place during the day in an endless sea of dancing wheat instead of at night when they first met. I think the main purpose of this shot is to balance out the overwhelming blue at the start of the OP and to emphasize Lawrence's importance as an equal partner to Holo.
Hey, while we're back here looking at it, doesn't the moon that wakes Holo up represent Lawrence? It is on the left side of the screen.
I'd say you're probably right. At any rate, that brings us to the end of this OP, and what an amazing OP it is. The editing and composition is close to perfect, and it packs so much meaning and detail into every last frame.